Hey there, Nikki here. In this video, I'm just going to show you a few simple exercises that you can do to improve your ankle mobility. So just super quick, why do we even care if our ankles move well? The long short of it is for most of us, our ankles, these things, don't move that well. And it's usually because we jam them in shoes and we don't move them through their full range of motion in our daily life, because sometimes the most ankle movement we get is like pushing on the brake and like walking to and from our desk, like down the stairs to our car. The other reason why it matters is beyond the fact that we just don't use it, and it's good to move all of our joints in their full ranges of motion, is that when your ankles don't move well, you're more likely to have to compensate somewhere else in the chain. So for a lot of us, that means something a little funky happens in the foot or the knee or the hip or like the low back. And while it's not like what I'd call a crisis, it can contribute to sort of inefficient movement. So you won't move as well or as efficiently. It'll take more effort to move, and sometimes discomfort or even pain in the foot, the knee, the hip, the low back, and so on. So it's just a good joint to address, even if you don't feel like there's anything quote unquote wrong with your ankles. In fact, that's the best time to address it, before there's an issue. I like to do these moves before I'm going to like lift, especially if I'm going to do like a lot of like say squatting, where I know I'm going to need that range of motion. Also really helpful if you tend to do long walks, if you run, any of those sorts of things. So first exercise we're going to do is just a point flex. I'll show you the basic, and then I'll show you what I call a fancy version. So hands are behind you. Kind of roll your chest open, and you're just going to start by kind of flexing your feet, pulling your toes towards your nose, and then pointing down. So the first thing I want you to notice as you do this is, do your ankles move the same? Or if you're like me, do you not have a match set? So I don't have ligaments in my left ankle, so it doesn't move the same as my right. And so you'll just do that a few times. Now, if that all feels good, this is where I kind of like to look at how can I differentiate movement in my foot. So I'm going to have you pull your toes all the way back towards your nose. And now, keeping your toes pulling back, I want you to just point your ankles, keep your toes flexed or pulled back, and then point your toes. And then here's the fun part. Keep your ankles pointed, flex your toes back, and then flex your ankles. And then start to play with that. Flex the toes back as you point the ankles. Hold that. See, does one foot work better than the other? For me, my left foot's always a little bit, I don't know, dumb, unfortunately. Point your toes down and then flex your toes back, and then flex your ankles back. Try that a few more times. Point the ankles, point the toes, flex the toes, flex the ankles. Two more. Point ankles, point toes, flex the toes, flex the ankles. Also, great time to notice, do your ankles make interesting floorboard noises? Mine do. Good. Now from here, you can turn these into ankle circles. These are deceptively simple sounding, but what I want you to start to notice is, as you circle your ankles, can you move your ankles without, I'm going to do a weird one, moving your thigh bones. So I'm trying to hold my thigh bones still and just move my ankles around. If you're not so sure, you can watch your foot and do one foot at a time and then reverse the other way. Again, you might feel or hear your ankles make interesting floorboard noises. No big deal. As long as there's no pain, it's all good. Great, and then relax. So from here, I'm just going to show you another little move that you can do. This one I like because you could even do it seated. It's super friendly for knees and hips, but I'm going to show you one that's a little bit trickier, but also good if you can get into this position. So you're going to play now with coming onto kind of this crouched position with one ankle tucked under you. And when your ankle's tucked under you like this, it's actually going to stretch it out. So kind of, it's a little bit primal movement. Holding there for a breath, and then from here you're just going to ease back, and then you're just going to kind of roll over and then go to the other side, and then just notice, does one side do this better than the other? Hang for just a moment, nice open chest, and then again kind of ease back. You could make this as fancy a transition as you want. If being all the way back on your ankle doesn't feel good, you could also just kind of bring your weight a little bit forward. So play with your position, find what works for you. And then easing back. Let's just go one more time. You could, of course, do more if you're using this for more of a longer warm-up. I'm just doing this for demos purposes or demonstration purposes. All right, words are hard tonight. Okay, from here, let's come on to hands and knees. I'm going to show you another one. I show this one a lot, but I love this one because it's so straightforward, and it warms up not just your ankles, but also your knees and your hips and your wrists and your shoulders. So it's just great. So you're going to tuck your toes under, try to get even your baby toes down. You're going to sit back as far as you can, keeping your back flat so you're not curling. Kind of feeling the stretch in your toes and your feet. And then you're going to come up as far as you can over your hands, stretching out those wrists and shoulders. And just kind of shifting backwards and forwards a few times. Now, the more I walk my hands back, the more I'm going to feel kind of that challenge, say through maybe my feet or my wrist, just depending. So like, for example, this will be a little bit more forgiving on the wrists. And I know this is an ankle video, but it's just worth pointing out if your wrists don't like this position. It's good to kind of load the wrists if you're not used to this, but you want to find a place that you can kind of tolerate too. I've got pretty good wrist mobility, so I can go kind of far. But no big deal if you keep it a little bit smaller. Great. And the final one I'm going to show you is just done standing, because I find it's always going to integrate movement in standing, because ideally that's where we live. So you're going to put your feet under you, check that they're on straight. For a lot of us, they'll want to turn out. Again, standing like that's not a big deal, but for this exercise, parallel is good. You can put your hands on your hips, and I'm just going to show you the base version first, where you're just going to roll through the foot, putting weight over the big toe, so you're not sickling the foot out. You saw how happily my foot went there. So I'm going to line it up so I've got weight in the big toe, and my hip, my knee, my ankle are all in roughly the same line. I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to switch sides. And this alone is a good one, because you'll start to notice if you have a big toe that doesn't move. Big toe movement, just as important as ankle movement. If you are a runner, if you walk, if you are a human, you want big toes that move. You'd be surprised how getting the big toe to move can make a whole bunch of other joints feel so much better. Good. So again, this is sort of the base choice, rolling through the foot. It's a great one. You could stay there for as long as you like. If you feel good with this though, little challenge. You're going to lift a foot. Now you're going to come up onto your toes. You're going to lower one heel and then lower the other heel. And again, lift, lift, lower, lower. I'm still thinking about keeping weight over my big toes. Let's go one more time this way. Of course, you could do more if you wish. And lower and reverse. So now lead with the other side. Up, up, down, down. Good work. Up, think straight up. Keep your posture. Down and down. 2 more times. Up, up, down, down. Final time. Up, up, down, and relax. And that's it. Thanks so much for watching. If you got a question or comment, you can drop it in the comment section below. I'd be happy to help.